I have here another set of decks from a mixture of the Legacy era and post-reset. If you want to know more about the context that these decks were built in, the gameplay context, please do check out the description of this video. These two focus on Tatooine, Cyclone Walkers, which are kind of like a little bit like Dune Walkers, if you know those from the Special Edition set, and then Moisture Farming, which is a fairly complicated mechanic that I hope I understand well enough to describe it a little bit in this video. We'll start out with Cyclone Walkers. And this deck actually itself is a little bit complicated, trying to make starship sites something useful. So Imperial Tanglements would be the main objective here, just trying to spread out your guys on Tatooine. And you start with the Devastator in space. And this is the site I started to go with, so using one force to take into hand a device that deploys in a starship, which would be the shield generator for these. But good effect for weapons. This is the one that is nice for your guys at starship sites. So it's power +2 for each of your characters at its related sites. It's almost like they count as being pilots at the same time. And you can forfeit them from it. Plus, if your starship leaves table, the sites go in the used pile, so you don't have to lose everybody aboard them. And then this allows you to get AT-ATs or Victory Class Star Destroyers with pilots, so kind of like that Squadron Assignments card for the light side that lets you go drop Red 5 from your hand and get Luke Skywalker. So a bit of a complicated card here, but controlling this site and putting a guy here, excuse me, and then being able to move the Star Destroyers erect is not bad at all. And the light side text, yeah, the light side text is also basically dark side text, so unless the light side controls it, it gets more immunity, and that's an interesting text. Or adds 2 to immunity if on Devastator an opponent controls this site. Oh, it's immune to attrition. Okay, so yeah, this can make Devastator immune to attrition. I guess I didn't really read that closely when I was making the deck. And this is the main officer of this deck, so it allows you to deploy warriors, and he's pretty good in getting out with this site. But I actually don't want too many warriors in the deck. It's more about AT-ATs, but these have some good support. So he gets a bonus for however many troopers I have at battleground sites, a one-time force drain bonus. And lots of decent troopers. Basically just guys that are ability 2 to help out. And here's the main driving force of the deck. These are pretty good walkers, especially when we get the pilots on them, but it makes my pilots forfeit +2 and the vehicle power +1. And when we get to the pilots, after we see the AT-AT cannon, I guess I had 5 Cyclone Walkers. The pilots, they add 2 to the power, can draw a battle destiny if unable to otherwise, and I can forfeit them to use pile if I use 1 force. So being able to recycle the pilots, depending on how much battle damage you take, I mean, if you take 7 damage, or 7 attrition, or 7 battle damage, I mean, you can forfeit these guys for 4. It says 2, but they're on the AT-AT gives them +2, and then forfeit this for 3. And then next turn, just deploy another one right on there. And it's pretty hard to crack the AT-ATs then. AT-ST pilot as well, a couple of non-pilot warriors with some good text. AT-STs for support. Gotta have trample if you have a walker deck. And Walker Garrison, this is the virtual version, so basically makes it like the T-47 battle formation. A couple of sites to spread out. I used to really like Tatooine Marketplace because it let me retrieve, but I didn't use the retrieval that often. Tatooine Occupation for some force loss. And some random helper effects. This one, probably not a very good card, but hey, if I ever lose an AT-AT and want to draw dest, and I've just lost my AT-AT, and I don't have any cards left, maybe take some people with me. To get out some effects, that one is, and then TIE Interceptors to support the Devastator with a couple of their TIE Interceptor cannons. So just kind of the idea of AT-ATs and TIE Interceptors, which I don't use very much. It's kind of a cool looking card, and being able to shoot a weapon twice seems like a lot of fun. The Moisture Farming, on the other hand, it's kind of a complicated deck, as I might have mentioned earlier. but starting the Tatooine system, and then being able to deploy a farm, 2 devices, and 2 effects. So getting out an extra site, which itself has some pretty complicated text. I can deploy a Lars there, and I can get more force generation if they're there. The idea here of crops is a bit interesting. I can take cards from my lost pile, and then it's kind of like retrieval that isn't really retrieval depending on what I draw for Destiny. So it's a very slow retrieval. It's you gotta farm the card you want to retrieve is kind of the idea. So pretty cool mechanic. And then this is nice. Whenever I'm about to activate force from some special cards that allow me to do so, this is a big deal because I can take into hand some pretty key characters for the deck. So Biggs and Kami, Luke's friend, Krell, who's like a moisture farmer leader, Fixer, another one of Luke's friends. The moisture farmer card itself is pretty useful in this deck. Any Lars or a Tatooine site. So all sorts of options that I can take with that card. A couple of effects here, so just an extra grabber. I always like grabbers, and then being able to pull cards is nice when I deploy main characters to the sites. And she does some stuff with crops, and when you play Baru Stew or Blue Milk, I can draw an extra card. So lots of ways to get cards into hand from my deck. And he's kind of nice for preventing cards with Lightsaber in title, so it's pretty tough for the opponent to come down and I don't know, have Darth Maul / Owen and Baru, for example. And then these cards, interrupts that allow you to activate. Harvest, I guess I have 3 copies in here, but this is almost more of a Battle Destiny one, depending on the situation. Plus the idea, hopefully, the opponent will grab Harvest when you play Harvest, and that will let you use your activation interrupts a bit more. Adding to your force drains where you have Vaporators or Hydroponic Stations, and he lets me go get the Vaporators and Hydroponic Stations, so those 2 here. Not terribly useful on their own, but they're just good for setting up the force drain combos. She lets me get Luke. He's pretty nice for Crash Site Memorial. I have a few devices and effects here that can go on there. So there's the Crash Site Memorial. 2 copies since I want to get it out, and it's a Destiny of 5. Beggar's Canyon, that's pretty big to set up Luke there with his T-16 Skyhopper, and it can move as a react, so if I needed to, if there's a battle at the farm, I can react back there, hopefully. And maybe Luke can actually save it, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru this time. Didn't work out so well in A New Hope. Decent weapon. This one, not really sure if I want it in there, but it is a device, so it can go on the Crash Site Memorial. And, hey, it makes it so they can't be targeted by permanent weapons or be captured. So that's really annoying to have your Lars be captured when they're kind of the ones that make the deck go. This one I always thought was interesting. And during your move phase, you can put your hand in your use pile to place a crop on your reserve deck. So if you have a small hand and maybe you're about to draw a bunch of cards and you got a small hand, maybe 2 cards or something, then you might as well do that and get your crop, that card you sort of retrieved, onto your reserve deck. So the original R2-D2, and a couple cards to get C-3PO out, and then Leia, Han, Chewie, and there's a Land. Did I not do a Lando in this deck either? I had a T-16 deck. Okay, so there's my Lando with his ship Lady Luck. Model on the picture they used was the Queen's starship. But that's real nice. He's kind of got a built-in squadron assignment, so you can reveal Lady Luck to go get him, or reveal him to go get Lady Luck without needing a special effect. And then some capital ships here. I thought I might have had Tantive 4 in here too, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Maybe that's coming later. So Poe and Biggs are decent pilots. Trying to get old times going. Got another farm I can deploy, and there's a lot of force I can activate in this deck, so having these cards around is good. And I suppose the opponent could always put Harvest on the other grabber if they use shields. Do they have a code clearance, I think it's called, which reduces retrieval. So got to be careful with that one. If that one's out, best not to play Harvest for retrieval. Tatooine Celebration, if you can control some space. And then kind of a cool trick if it's kind of late in the game and you're in a close one, you can place all your devices and character weapons on table in your used pile, which, yeah, it's a lost interrupt, but I mean, you might have 4 devices on the table at the time. So that might, if you're kind of in a drain race trying to squeak it out, being able to put 4 cards back in your deck can hopefully make the difference. But that is the moisture farming deck. Kind of a complicated premise there. There might be a few of the finer points. I'm sure there's a few of the finer points I missed, but there might be a few major points that I missed. But one of those things that, you know, a lot of people seem to like the Legacy era, and I'm guessing this is one of those things that they liked about it. And I don't know. From what I can understand, I wasn't playing the game at the time that this deck was legal, but from what I can understand, this didn't appear to be one of the more abusive things that players were getting bored of playing against or whatever. So it would be kind of interesting. If you know anything about that, please mention so in the comments. I'd be curious to hear that. If you enjoyed this video, I have other deck review videos coming up. I also have, of course, sealed product, which is the main drive of this channel, and occasional collection videos. So thanks for watching, and I hope you tune in for the next one.